Do narcissists know what they are doing? The mid-ranger. Previously I addressed whether the lesser narcissist knows what he or she is doing, and why. But now let us examine the mid-range narcissist. You may well accept that the lesser, unrefined battering ram that he or she is just ploughs through life, oblivious to the harm they cause. But surely the more cognitively blessed mid-range narcissist is well aware of what he is doing. He plots and plans, yes. He knows precisely how to manipulate and thinks it through, scheming in advance to get the right result for him. No. The mid-range narcissist, lower mid, middle mid and upper mid, has an increased level of cognitive function beyond the lesser. The mid-ranger also exhibits cognitive, fake, empathy, knowing enough of how he or she is expected to behave in order to fit in, to con, and thus ensnare. However, despite this increased cognitive function, and the upper mid-range narcissist may be highly intelligent, it is instinct that once again rules the behaviours and response of the narcissist. You may well think that the individual who has ensnared you, being intelligent and articulate, must surely know what they are doing, must surely realise their behaviour is wrong, and that they are deliberately behaving this way in order to upset you. That is not the case. Their narcissism is designed to blind them to that, to make it effective. The mid-ranger does not sit in a hollowed-out volcano like some Bond villain, rubbing his hands together and scheming, going ha-ha-ha-ha. He or she does not think about all the ways he or she can ruin the life of the empath in the forthcoming weeks. Their narcissism operates in a way, as ever, as a self-defense mechanism to enable the mid-ranger to function and be effective, because he or she has not developed other coping mechanisms, which non-narcissists have, to navigate a path through life. The operation of this is instinctive. Does the mid-ranger think that he will sit and sulk so he can assert control over his long-suffering spouse and gain fuel as she begs him to speak to her? No. He instinctively sits in silence because that is the optimum response as a consequence of him having been wounded. His narcissism operates to make him issue a silent treatment. This, of course, draws fuel and asserts his perceived superiority over the relevant appliance. But he does not decide to give a silent treatment. He just does it. He knows that he is not speaking to her. But he does not understand the full reasons why. Does the mid-ranger decide that she will issue a pity play to her colleagues about the way she has been passed over for promotion, thus smearing the boss and gaining sympathy fuel from those listening? No, it is her manipulative response to having been wounded by not gaining the promotion. Does the mid-ranger recognise that his cold put-downs upset you? Yes. He sees your tears, hears the hurt in your voice, and sees your pained expression. This provides him with fuel, although he does not recognise as such, and he feels the power flowing from the provision of such fuel. This reaction to the flow of power might be to smile or smirk at you. You may then think he knows what he's doing. No, he knows his action hurts you, but he feels no guilt, no remorse, no upset at behaving this way because, as ever, from the narcissist's perspective, it is entirely justified. He does not smirk because he thinks, good, I am hurting her. The smirk is an instinctive response to the provision of power that he's feeling from the provision of fuel. To understand this further, imagine there is a mid-range narcissist and a victim, husband and wife. Both have been at work during the day. The narcissist called his wife twice during the afternoon, but she did not answer. This wounds him. She also failed to call him back. He is wounded again. His wife, as his intimate partner primary source, is thus painted black as a consequence of his split thinking. Thus, from his narcissistic perspective, everything that she now says and does will be viewed through a black lens until she becomes painted white again. A normal, healthy person would work out that her failure to answer and return the call means she's busy, perhaps in a meeting. The narcissist, governed by paranoia and the overwhelming need to control, is wounded. This person is not doing what he wants. His sense of entitlement, that she should be available, is dented. He feels like he's losing control. He starts to feel powerless, and is reminded of a time when he was once regularly made to feel that way. This situation must be addressed. He must assert his superiority, and his blackened view of his spouse will enable him to do this. His wife arrives home first. The husband walks through the door, and she greets him with, "Hello, darling, what have you been doing?" An innocuous and pleasant question, inquiring thoughtfully about her husband's day. The husband does not regard it that way. His narcissism demands that he asserts control and that she is punished for her transgression. He does not think, "She did not answer my call, I must punish her. She did not call me back, I must assert control." Those needs for control and punishment are automatic and instinctive. Her question is viewed as prying, controlling, and unnecessary. "What's it got to do with you?" he snaps at her. His blackened view of her, meaning his response is provocative and unpleasant. His wife is taken aback. Her expression changes to one of hurt, and the narcissist receives fuel from this reaction. "Sorry, what's wrong? Why are you being like that?" she asks in a hurt tone. These questions are now challenge fuel. Her emotion gives him fuel, but because she's querying him, she's challenging him, and thus, viewed by the narcissist, continues to reject control and rebel against him. The mid-ranger does not think, good, she is upset and confused. I know, I will keep this going. Instead, his instinctive response, which is automatic and swift, in order to preserve him as his self-defense mechanism should, causes him to respond with, "There's nothing wrong with me, it's you, always prying, always asking me questions, trying to control me." The wife is taken aback once again. She knows she is not controlling, but then she may start to doubt this, of course. But she is confused. Her confusion is welcomed by the narcissist. It makes her easier to control, but again, he does not consciously think this. Her responses keep fueling the narcissist. The mid-ranger, however, is not considering what he will say next in order to keep confusing her. He is not considering how to gain more fuel from her. He is not considering how to assert his control over her. It all happens as a matter of instinct. He knows she is upset, but it is her fault, because the narcissism makes it anybody's fault save that of the narcissist. He knows that his comments trouble her, but they are necessary, because she is the aggressor. A third party watching the scene would decide that the narcissist responded unpleasantly at the outset, and thus he is the problem, he is the aggressor. The narcissist does not and cannot see that. He thinks he is the victim. He thinks his spouse is the problem, because she failed to answer his call and call him back. His narcissism makes him think she is controlling, and thus he responds to her abusive behavior, and accordingly, he is not the instigator. This is why, coupled with a lack of remorse and guilt, is why the mid-range narcissist sees nothing wrong with what he is doing, because all he is doing is responding to the unreasonable behavior of another, and therefore he is in the right. This increased cognitive awareness of the mid-ranger also gives rise to the facade. A lesser would have an affair and would not care who knows. The cuckolded spouse is at fault for whatever reason he chooses, and anybody who dares to say anything bad about his infidelity, well, they are a moron. The mid-range narcissist knows that society regards infidelity, generally, as a bad thing. He does not. And moreover, his narcissism will give him plenty of reasons why he should commit it. However, because he has enough cognitive awareness to recognize that it is frowned upon, he will hide the affair, unless there is an overriding beneficial reason not to, which gives the appearance to others that he would actually feel bad about his behavior. Not so. He actually does not want his facade damaged. He does not want the aggravation of the steady home life, with its attendant fuel and residual benefits, damaged. But again, he does not think in precise terms. Like that, he just knows that people will frown on him for cheating on his wife, so he keeps it hidden. It may seem that the mid-range narcissist does indeed feel guilty for his behaviour, that he is genuinely sorry and he will make amends. Not at all. Again, he knows enough from instinctive observation that not talking to someone for a week is hurtful and viewed as a bad thing, and will even go so far as to admit that. But there will always be a reason or an excuse. He will say, "I know it hurts you when I do not speak to you for a week, but if you didn't nag me, I would not need a time out." he instinctively blame shifts within this moment of apparent contrition. He does not realise that what he does is actually wrong in terms of accountability for him. Some middle mid-rangers and upper mid-rangers may plan to correct the perceived wrongs they have suffered, but again this remains an instinctive response. He does not think, I know this is wrong what I am planning, but what the hell, I will do it anyway. He knows people may regard it as wrong, but he knows that he's justified because he has been offended, hurt, wronged in some way, namely wounded or challenged, and thus his action is justified and necessary. When the mid-ranger lies, he does not know that he is lying. The lie is his truth, because his narcissism causes it to be. His narcissism will deflect blame, apportion blame to you, revise history, deny, and so forth, all part of the instinctive responses which are totally necessary for the narcissist to regain and maintain control and gain fuel, and is a result of the narcissist twin lines of defence. A further video which I recommend to you. When the mid-ranger gaslights, he does not know he is doing so. He may be contradicting what he said 5 minutes ago, but his narcissism blinds him to this. It has to, so the defence mechanism remains intact and effective, and therefore he genuinely believes what he's saying is correct, and moreover, you are wrong, and therefore you are the problem. This is why mid-range narcissists truly believe that they are good people. Indeed, they believe they are empathic people at times, and that the other person, the real victim, is the problem. This is why the real victim is labelled as an abuser, a tormentor, and even a narcissist. And the mid-range narcissist truly believes this to be the case. He does not think, I know I am the problem and she is not, but I want to mess with her head, I want to make her life a misery, I want her to think that she's at fault. He really believes the victim is the troublemaker, because that way his responses and actions have absolute conviction, have the best possible chance of a successful outcome, namely fuel and control, and thus the manipulation goes on and on with no prospect whatsoever for change.